sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for being born. I was just a boy, punished for a crime that was not mine.
Hello, 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 and thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. I am Claudrine Jackson. I am your host for A Spoonful of Comfort because we need comfort in the world nowadays, and we can give comfort in the world nowadays. Uh, Thank you for the privilege of your time. Those of you who are watching the show, it is an honor for me to be able to speak to you. And I thank you for taking time from your busy day to watch the show. It's a privilege and an honor, and I thank you for the privilege of your time. And grace be to you, and peace from God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. And may grace and peace be multiplied unto you. And also may health and prosperity be multiplied unto you. I want to thank not only the people who are watching, I want to thank the establishment here, R.J. Watkins and Henry Tyler, for having kept this station going for such a long period of time. Like I say, they are a part of our Black history. I want to thank the people who have donated to the Purvis Foundation. The Purvis Foundation is my fuel for getting me to do TV shows and write books and things, because the Purvis Foundation helps lower income children with handicaps. Now, Purvis Jackson, who was the bass singer of the Spinners before he passed away, and our son, Purvis Jr., Purvis Jackson Jr., was the impetus for us to start the Purvis Jackson Autism Foundation. But Purvis Sr. did not really live long enough to see it get off the ground. So that's why I'm so thankful to those of you who help, because we could not help children with handicaps without your help. So thank you so much. And we're going to have another 20 grand reunion to raise money for the Purvis Foundation. Last year, our 20 grand reunion was in August. It was well attended. Thank you for all the people who attended the 20 grand reunion to help the Purvis Foundation. This year, the 20 grand reunion is going to be July the 6th, which is the weekend right after the 4th of July. So hopefully there'll be enough people in town to come to the event. Now, those of you younger people know nothing about the 20 grand, but I want to keep the history of the 20 grand alive, because in the 60s and 70s, it was a Detroit destination. People from all over the country, entertainers, performers, and just regular people. When they came to Detroit, the 20 grand was number one on their list of things that they wanted to do. Now, the 20 grand was more than just a nightclub. It was a complex. They had a 20-lane bowling alley, and then there was a lounge and a snack bar on the same floor as the bowling alley. And then upstairs, they had a humongous ballroom called the Gold Room, and they had a showroom called the Driftwood Lounge, which is where all the best singers and performers appeared in the Driftwood Lounge. And I was talking about Motown during Black History Month, but Berry Gordy would schedule his performers to perform at the 20 grand before they went on the road. So the 20 grand was a very large part of the history of Detroit. And most of us are gone. So that's why I'm trying to, the few of us who are left, We had the 20 grand ladies. The 20 grand ladies were the ladies that kept the men coming in. And we had about a dozen of the 20 grand ladies who are still around and still able to get out, were at the last event. So hopefully they will also attend the next event. We say the 20 grand ladies are the ones that kept the men coming in, and the 20 grand men are the ones that kept the cash registers ringing. So the 20 grand was a big part of Detroit history, and I enjoyed my years working there and was sad to see it go, but everything must change. Everything must change. So I'll give you more information about the 20 grand reunion before July the 6th. So I had mentioned last week that I was hit with some news that I did not want to hear, and I won't go into any detail. I'll just give you the initials, which is IRS. So what do we do when we get hit with news that we don't want to hear, or when we get hit with a problem? We go to our Bible to get uplifted and get our batteries recharged and know that we can handle it. So after I get hit with the news, I said, well, I need to read some scriptures to uplift me. And that's the thing about the Bible. The scriptures can uplift you at any moment, during the middle of the night, early in the morning, when you don't want to call anybody. So one of my favorite scriptures is Matthew 5:45. He maketh the sun to shine on the evil and the good, and he sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. He maketh the sun to shine on the evil and the good, and he maketh the rain to fall on the just and the unjust. That's something for us to remember, that all things happen. In Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter of Ecclesiastes, he says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. I won't read all of it to you, but a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh. If you go to Ecclesiastes 3 and read that chapter, it will help you if you're going through a trying situation. Also, Philippians 4:6 says, don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done, and then you will experience God's love. When you do this, even though your problem hasn't changed, you do feel a weight lifted. You do feel lighter. 1 Peter 5:7 says, pour out your worries and cares to God, for he cares about what happens to you. Thank him for caring deeply about the things that trouble you. And I'm a witness to the fact that these things do help. And as I said, I heard something I didn't want to hear, and I've got to do something I'm not happy about doing. But that's a part of life. The sun shines on the evil and the good, and it rains on the just and the unjust. And I want to remind you that this is reading month. March is reading month. And I know that a lot of people don't like to read. I don't read as much as I used to. I have vision problems now that keep me from reading as much as I used to. But since this is reading month, I want to tell you about reading. I have to remind you about my book, Inspired by Autism. This is my second book, and it was written because my handicapped son inspired it. And I say that he is one of the less fortunate. I am blessed. I am one of the more fortunate. And doesn't God want those of us who are more fortunate to help the less fortunate? If you see a need and you can help fulfill that need, I feel that we have that responsibility. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. So, anyhow, Inspired by Autism is my second book. It's right here at WHPR in the bookstore. So, if you want um, a copy of it, you can get it here. And if you come on a Tuesday, I'll autograph it for you. My first book is Let There Be Light, which is a book of poems. Let There Be Light was written in the 90s, so it's not in print anymore. But that was my first book. I also have a book on the internet, which is my blog, which is the same name as this show. So if you go to a spoonfulofcomfort.org, a spoonfulofcomfort.org, you can read other things that I've written that are on my blog. So as a person who writes and reads, I want to remind you that this is reading month. You don't have to read a whole book. Read something. Read the paper. Read. One of my favorite things to read is one of the guidepost publications called Mornings with Jesus. It has a scripture, a story, and then something for you to do for each day of the month. If you just read each day, Mornings with Jesus. But reading is so important. And when I was teaching, it was one of the things that I tried to get my students interested in reading, because you can make people read, but what they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can make people read, but can you get them to like reading? So the Dr. Seuss books were very good at helping my students want to read, and they got to the point where they would read the books. So it was good for them because they would read themselves and they would want to read. So hopefully they continued reading after they were no longer in my classroom. So we have some wonderful, wonderful teachers in the Detroit public school system. Some teachers who are working with our students and getting them to want to read. We not only have great teachers, we have social workers, physical therapists, occupational therapists, people that work with our children to try to get them to succeed. Now, with my students, other than trying to get them to read, to want to read, I worked on their behavior, because some of my students had behavior problems. And they did not want to be in special ed. I was a special education teacher. They did not want to be in special ed, but I was their teacher. So I had to get them to want to like school. So I'm going to take a short break. I'll be back with you in a minute. Please stay tuned for a spoonful of comfort.
When I was 17, I ran away from home and from everything I had ever known. I was sick and tired, living in a town filled with narrow minds and hate. They used to laugh at me, their children called me names. I would run and hide, feeling so ashamed just for being born. I was just a boy, punished for a crime that was.
Thank you so much for staying with me. Before the break, I was talking about trying to encourage my students to read and trying to encourage them to have good behavior, because they were very impulsive. And if someone called them a name, they wanted to fight. Or they would even tell me, make them stop looking at me. So I tried to give them strategies to use that were an option. You have an option. You don't have to fight. So we did role playing. Someone call you a name, you don't have to call them a name back. You can say, that hurt my feelings. Did you mean to hurt my feelings? I gave them other strategies to use. But their point of view was that, Miss Jackson, if you walk away from a fight or if you don't get them back, they're going to think you weak. They're going to think you weak. So I'd be interested to know what some of our viewers think. Is it a point where you can't walk away from a fight, or do people think that you're weak? And I'm a witness. People have thought that I was weak because I walked away from a fight. But I knew in my heart that they were not worth the time and the energy. So that's one way to look at it if somebody wants to fight. And I say at my age now, anybody that wants to fight an old lady, they truly are not worth my time and energy. But my students did come around to thinking differently about fighting. And I shared the poem with you that they wrote last week. But I'm so proud of the poem that they wrote. They came up with the idea for the poem. It was a classroom project that they suggested. And it was called Fightin' Fool. Don't be a fighting fool, because fighting breaks the rules. You'll get kicked out of school. Even worse, you could get hurt or be laying in the dirt. Get rid of guns. Get rid of knives. Don't be a part of gang drive-bys. And if you try to do your best, then you can pass the test. Now, every line of that poem was my students' idea, except the one where the line that I said, even worse, you could get hurt. But I was so proud of them for coming up with that on their own. And hopefully hopefully it made somewhat of an impact on them. But there was a lot of misbehavior in schools, and my feeling is that once they took prayer and paddling out, that's when the misbehavior came in. I saw question and an answer, and the question was, God, why do you allow so much violence in schools? And the answer from God was, I'm not allowed in schools. And I thought that was so appropriate, because that is my feeling, that once we took God out of schools, something came in, and we don't have, that's a void. It left a void. So I'm talking about teachers. I want to read a poem to you from my book. It's called Special Educator. And I wrote it for special education teachers, but it applies to all teachers. Special is as special does, and special you shall be when you care for special children who are not like you and me. You're trying to save the children, and you're doing it with grace and love and dedication and a smile upon your face. You all are special people. You taught me how to see, to look into the inside and let the outside be. Your determination caught me. I can make it if I try. I am learning to be patient. I am learning not to cry. I'm learning to be positive. I'll do what I can do. And if I make some progress, it's what I've learned from you. I don't know why you do it. I don't know why you care, but I have to tell you how I feel. Thank God that you are there. And to all the people in the school system who are working with our children, thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. I was impacted by teachers even as an adult, because when my son was in school, my son was born in 1975. Detroit did not even have an autism program then, because it was so rare. So my son went to school in Garden City, Berger School in Garden City. But since my son cannot talk, the teachers gave me their phone number so I could call them at any time. So when I was teaching, I thought that was such a good idea that I did the same thing. I gave my parents, my students' parents, my phone number. And I said, if you ever have a problem or a question, you don't have to wait till parent-teacher conference. You can call me at any time, and I'll be glad to answer it for you. And in all the years that I was teaching, no parent ever abused that privilege. They were so thankful to have the teacher's phone number. Now, I retired many years ago, so I know now that they email teachers and teachers email back and forth. But back when I was teaching, you either had to come to parent-teacher conference or request a special a meeting with the teacher. And I don't think we give our teachers enough credit nowadays for all that they go through. Me, having been in the profession, I know what teachers go through. They spend their own money buying things for the children, and they work way past 3 o'clock, making lesson plans and correcting tests and doing all kinds of things to help their students thrive. We've got two schools in Detroit that I wanted to mention. We've got some great schools, but these are the ones I've had experience with, so I know Bright Hop Technical Center. I think it's on Wyoming. Bright Hop is a school where the students learn more than academics. They have a restaurant that they run there, and the food is delicious. You can actually go to the school and eat at their restaurant, and the food is wonderful. And the students are going into the hospitality profession, the ones that are in that program. So they have delicious rolls that you can go in and buy. I don't know if they have ham all year, but they have different foods that you can actually go in and buy. So I think that's wonderful to do for students that may not be interested in a college career. And also, there is Randolph Center on Hubble near 6 Mile. Randolph, they have a horticulture program where you can go in and buy plants and flowers, and that's a Detroit public school. I thought that was wonderful. Go Lightly is another technical school that teaches students other things than preparing them for college. And I think that's wonderful because everybody is not wanting to go to college. So to prepare students, and I know this is what was going on when I was teaching. I know now that they have some other good things going on for teachers. I know about Detroit Promise, where they help high school students to go to college and pay for the college. And reading is so important that anybody who's working for reading and trying to get our students to read and be better citizens, I think is wonderful. I want to share, speaking of reading, I want to share a couple of books that helped me greatly, that still have an impact on my life. There are some books that you read and you go back and you read them again and they have an impact on your life. One of the books that helped me greatly was called The Greatest Miracle in the World, and it was written by Og Mandino. His name was Augustine Mandino, but he just called himself Og, O-G, The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. And the greatest miracle in the world is you and me, our bodies. The way God created us, we have bodies that heal themselves. We have bodies that we have minds that can learn. We are, when you think about your body and you think about all it does, in The Greatest Miracle in the World, he talks about how many times your heart beats per year, year after year after year. He talks about how your lungs filter oxygen, even, as he says, in some of the worst environments of our own making. And that's true. I remember before they had all these air conditioners and things when I was younger, you could go into a place and the smoke, people were smoking, and the smoke would be so thick you could see it like smog. And your lungs still worked to filter oxygen into your blood. He talks about your blood renews itself every so often. I can't tell you exactly, how that works. Also, speaking. We are the only creatures that he has created that can speak. And speaking may not seem like a miracle. It never did seem like that to me. But of all the things that God has created, humans are the only ones that can speak. Well, when I realized that it was a miracle just to be able to speak, is when my son cannot speak. And I spent a lot of time and money trying to get him to speak, but he never was able to speak. So the fact that you can speak is a blessing. And your brain is 3 pounds of muscle and nerves. And because of your brain, everything that has happened in your life is imprinted in your brain. You might not be able to remember it right then, but as Og Mandino says, our body is better than any computer that man could ever invent. And it reminds me of one of the scriptures, Psalms 139:14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and my soul knows very well. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Another book that had a great impact on me and still has an impact on me, and you've heard me talk about this one before, which is The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale says you can change your life by changing your attitude. Whatever the facts in your life are, you can change your attitude about these facts and change your life. Well, I had to do this. I changed my attitude about autism because when I saw autism as this humongous burden, and then I saw it as a challenge, then I saw it as a responsibility. Now it is a blessing. Autism has been a blessing in my life because it has helped develop me into a person I probably wouldn't have been without autism coming into my life. And I do know that I never would have sat still long enough to write a book if I hadn't had a son handicapped by autism. In your erroneous zones, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he also says you can change your feelings because you can change your thoughts about your feelings. And you can. You can change your thoughts about your feeling. You have control over your thoughts. In The Renewing Power of Your Mind, that book says that your mind can constantly renew itself. So I've shared some of the books that have helped me greatly. I'll share some more next week. And read something during the week. And until next Tuesday at 1:30, I'll be looking forward to speaking with you here for a Spoonful of Comfort.